Hey, okay, let's see if we can get this to work. Um, so I've been recording a series of videos about the process of creating a strategy for Resilience Network, or rather, actually the process of applying for a bid for stage two funding. And what you're seeing, I think, on the screen is the series of videos that we've got being recorded. And the one I want to do today is about the government's plans to scale up community energy and their request for evidence unlocking community energy. They're holding an inquiry. And we've got a couple in already. Um, we being Community Energy England, and a group that we're working in called Energy Local. And of course, lots of other people we know are putting in submissions. And I want to put in one today that's kind of focused. And so I'm going to invite ChatGPT to participate. Let's see if I can share. There's a screen saying, that's now showing that we're sharing ChatGPT. So I've got ChatGPT with me, and I think when I actually fire it up, that little thing stops. Hey, Chat, are you there?
Got it. I'm here. What's next?
Okay, so I'm screen sharing with you. We're recording this little conversation on Zoom, and the conversation is just me with me. But we've also got, what have we got? Have we got Zoom's AI should be recording more.
That sounds like a cool setup. So
Yeah,
your plan? Yes, I'm here. What's up?
well, it will be if it works. Um, I'm trying to turn on Zoom AI. Can't see it at the moment. Let's stop sharing. I'm going to stop sharing you, but you'll still be there. And I get AI Companion. I can see it at the bottom. So I've turned on Zoom's AI Companion. So what we're going to get on the one side is we're going to get Zoom recording this meeting. And
Sounds like.
yep.
And I'm here to. Yes, what's next?
Yeah, and I'm recording this, so I'll put it on YouTube. I can get the transcript from it and feed that to you, but you're listening anyway. And we're talking about the government's um, uh, inquiry. So I'm going to upload a file so that you've got the background. And that's, I'm looking for CEFs. Where am I looking for? I'm looking for ResNet's Zoom. So I'm going to record this, and this is Community Energy England's response to the government inquiry. I'm going to upload that to you right now. And I'm going to do the same thing with Energy Local's response to the inquiry. So that's cool. So I've just uploaded Community Energy England's response to the government's inquiry on scaling Community Energy England, and I've uploaded Energy Local's response. Can you confirm that you've got them, and would you like to say a little bit about them?
Yes, I've got both documents. 1. Community Energy England's response focuses broadly on scaling up community energy by addressing financial, regulatory, and market barriers. It emphasizes enabling local supply, prioritizing grid connections, reforming planning systems, and increasing public awareness. It also advocates for long-term funding mechanisms, professionalization of the sector, and enabling community ownership as a material consideration in planning. 2. Energy Local's response highlights their experience in creating local energy markets, where local generators and consumers collaborate to balance demand and generation. They push for regulatory reforms to support local energy markets, better grid connection access, and integration of renewable heat and transport infrastructure into these systems. They also focus on consumer demand flexibility and the efficiency benefits of balancing at a local level. Both responses are comprehensive and align in advocating for systemic reform to unlock community energy at scale. Energy Local's emphasis on complex sites and local energy markets complements Community Energy England's broader strategic vision. Together, they provide a strong case for reshaping policy and market frameworks to support community-led energy initiatives. Would you like a deeper analysis or help synthesizing their ideas?
No, I think that's really cool. I'm amazed that you can read these things quickly and give such wonderful summaries. I think other people will be equally impressed and wondering what on earth I'm planning to do. What I'm wanting to do is to talk through some of the ideas that I would like to put into Resilience Network's response, which is rather more restricted. And if you can keep quiet, if you don't keep too quiet, I'll ask you when I want responses. And if you tend to respond too much, I may cut you off, like you do with an over-enthusiastic child. But I do want your response because at the end of this, I want you to pull together what we're suggesting and create a document that's in the context of Community Energy England and Energy Local. Now, Resilience Network has got quite an unusual proposition. If you look at what most community energy groups are doing, we've got one in Bristol, which has just put up a lovely 4 megawatt wind turbine. And other groups have community energy groups tend to put solar energy on solar farms, on the roofs of community buildings and so on. They get involved in trying to figure out how to do retrofits, energy efficiency work. And if you look at the sum total of what they've done, there's something under 400 megawatts of community energy deployed in the United Kingdom, I think. I'll link to both those reports in the notes under this video, and I will link to a Community Energy England State of the Empire report, State of the Energy Community report for the UK. And you can see how much CEE has done. And the thing is, we've got a new government coming in. They want to really scale up England energy to the point where we're net zero.
Sounds like an exciting and well-considered plan. I'm here to follow your lead, chime in when asked, and help you craft something sharp and impactful. The Resilience Network's approach, especially with its distinctive pilot model, and focus on integrating multiple technologies at the community level, could add a fresh angle to the inquiry. When you're ready, feel free to start sharing your ideas. I'll listen closely, take notes, and provide structured input when you need it. And don't worry, I'll keep the over-enthusiastic child energy in check.
Okay, and I'm intending to keep this to less than half an hour. And it's one of a series, by the way. Let's see if I can just share so that people get an idea what is going on. So you end up with a series of YouTube.
That sounds like a great way to structure your thoughts. Depending on your manager, you can put yourself and your audience sharing a series using the Zoom.
Interrupting you. And as people can see, now I've got you can see that I was you can see 4 or 5 videos in a list on the right beside the first one. This is the very first video that I made when I was trying to figure out how to do these things. If you search, you can search on David Saunders ResNet, the first one. That's the very first one. If I click over here, then
suppose we have a kilowatt of.
I've named them fairly consistently. It's a series of videos, and we start off exploring what's the economics of solar, because that's what Resilience Network's interested in, and can we build a solar business model? And we spent the last year working on a feasibility study report, and we've just submitted a progress review. So those are the first 4 videos that we made, and this is the 5th one in the series, which is about scaling up. And they're all on this playlist, and this playlist is linked in all of the videos. So if you find any one of them, you can look beneath it and find all of them. And I'll put my lovely face away, and now you got me speaking live. So where are we? What's the potential? I've just said we got about 400 megawatts of solar community in the country, and the government is forming GB Energy. Before this government was elected, it was talking about investing £1 billion a year into community energy, which would come in the form of 400 million in loans to community energy groups. It's fair enough. Loans are good. Community energy groups know how to turn loans into renewable resources that are generating energy, and selling the energy that repays the loans. They're offering 600 million to local authorities, and that's kind of a good thing too. It's not just free money, but a lot of that will, I suspect, end up going into retrofit projects where we're trying to get our homes to the point where they're energy efficient. And you don't get a return on investment or you certainly get a return on investment, but it's not cash, so you can't repay the finance. So local authorities need grants to do this work. Fair enough. And what would be ideal would be if community energy groups and local authorities work together in partnership. I'd certainly like that to be one of the points that we put in our submission. But the biggest point to put in our submission is that the government is wanting to know how much you could scale up community energy. And we're at 400 megawatts, and we've got, we've got over 10 gigawatts of wind, and we've got over 10 gigawatts of solar. And the government wants to double onshore wind energy. It wants to triple solar energy, and it wants to quadruple wind energy in the North Sea. Now, if you look at that, I don't know the exact number, but let's say it's 20 megawatts. If you actually go into, I have a little app that I use on my phone called Grid Carbon. Now, if I was really clever, I would be able to share that with you, but that is today's generation. I can just about get it to focus. What you're seeing, top blue line, is gas. The fat one underneath is in green, is wind energy. And there's a tiny little sliver over on the right that you can see in yellow, and that's solar energy. Not a lot because we're in winter, but that's 24 hours of energy in the UK. And that's going up to about, it's peaking at just over 40 gigawatts energy being consumed. During the middle of the night, it's about 30 gigawatts. And we're getting most of that at the moment from gas. We were getting, during the night, a big chunk of it from wind. That became less, and gas is filling in. So you can see in real time what's happening. And if we were to quadruple the amount of wind energy, then there would be times when we're getting more from the wind than we're actually currently consuming, at which point we'll need to start storing it and or throwing it away or selling it to other countries. But if we store it, it's likely that would be as hydrogen. Fine, all well and good. Centrica are working on ways to do that. British Gas are opening up a gas store in the North Sea, and they would hydrolyze excess wind energy, make hydrogen with it at any time there's wind, and then use that hydrogen anytime we need energy, especially during the winter. Cool. What about community energy groups? What can we do? Well, it turns out that the biggest opportunity is actually huge. And it's what community energy groups are not really doing at the moment. And it's what Resilience Network wants to do. Our feasibility study has been about putting solar energy on ordinary people's roofs. Is it feasible? Yes, it's feasible. Could you get a return from it? Yes, you could. You could invest in putting solar energy on people's roofs. We've done the arithmetic. We brought together groups, as is described in the earlier videos in this series. We brought together the local groups who could make this happen, legal experts, Energy Local in particular, who have the experience of figuring out how to take energy that's been generated by a renewable energy source and distribute it to members of the community and bill them for that energy and take the money, the income, and pay the generator by working with an energy supply company, which we would like to do lots of. What's the biggest potential? To put solar across all the roofs in the United Kingdom. Okay, what is that potential? Well, the council or committee or whatever it is, CPRE, the Council or Committee for the Preservation of Rural England, they love renewable energy. They'd kind of prefer that it didn't automatically put it on fields, that we use our farms for food in preference to energy. Might be possible to do both at the same time, but they're saying, look, there's room for 50 gigawatts of solar on our roofs and car parks in our cities. So they've done the audit so they can say, before you start putting solar on fields, why not put it in your cities? Is there an advantage in doing that? Sure. First off, you don't need grid capacity to carry it from the countryside into the city. If the solar's on your roof, then if you're using the energy being generated on your roof, you don't need the grid at all. Quite a lot of that generation can be used immediately within the house. That's called behind the meter. The energy company, you're free to use it. It's only if you don't use it that you want to export it, that you start to work with the energy company normally. We're saying, well, if you didn't pay for the solar, we'd like to work with the energy company to have them bill you for it, but at a discount. So that, in this case, isn't the person watching this. I'm having this conversation as much as anything with ChatGPT, who's already heard a great deal about our project, and so is going to be able to integrate our ideas with the government's ideas, with Mary Gillies' ideas. What we want from the government is, first of all, to take cognizance of this fact that communities, so what have communities got at the moment? We've got 400 megawatts of energy on roofs. What's the potential? 40 gigawatts, 100 times as much. Could we do that? Why not? Could it happen in time? I've got a lovely example, by the way. We're still talking about, first of all, a few years ago, we were talking about could we ever get to carbon neutral by 2050? And then our local Greens in Bristol took note of what the UN was saying, that we've got to get to carbon neutral far sooner because global warming is accelerating. And they put forward a motion and said, let's get to carbon neutral by 2030. We'll do a report on that too. How are we doing on Bristol getting to carbon neutral? So we'll do a little one on that. Because solar on our roofs could help with that massively. And all the local authorities immediately said, this is a great idea. Let's try and get to carbon neutral by 2030. But the plans don't necessarily show that we're on track to do that. But if you put solar on our roofs, that would move things forward significantly. 400, 40 gigawatts. Yeah, 40 gig. That's what CPRE are saying. Is it 40? A lot. I'm going to link to CPRE's report, by the way, and you'll be able to see that. And in a second version of this, we'll get the facts right and we'll have lovely slideshows produced by ChatGPT and others, me, to help do these presentations. And we'll do with local groups, where any local group that wants says, well, hey, we want to do this, we want to be on this, we want finance, we want to set up a group to work locally, and we want lots of solar on our roofs. We're already actually working with one local group that wants a wind turbine and a solar farm, and it wants solar on roofs. And they've got some funding for it, and we can't say who it is yet because they haven't officially been told that they've got the money, and they're going to handle their announcement, and that's great. But we will be working with them and other groups, hopefully, helping people replicate this model that we've just spent a year thinking through. 40 gigawatts of solar on roofs, but we're going to start with just we're talking about doing 50 to 100 roofs in Bristol, in clusters of small clusters up to 10, 20 roofs. Hopefully, for the fun of it, one cluster in the constituency of each of our 5 MPs, so that our MPs, I include a Treasury Minister and the Minister for the Environment, get to see what can happen in their constituencies, and so that the councillors in each of those constituencies, in the wards in each of those constituencies, can get to see what's happening in different parts of Bristol, mostly in the areas of least wealth, areas of fuel poverty, so that we can see immediately what the effect is of having cheaper energy. And here's a question: how much cheaper? Most people, we used to pay typically 15 pence a unit for electricity. If you're on smart meters, you could be on a tariff that varies with the time of day, and the energy price would vary, and the cost of solar electricity is cheapest. So you'd think we wouldn't be able to save much, but if we put in a battery at the same time, you could be charging that battery, and you might be out at work during the day when the sun's shining. But if we put in a battery at the same time, you could be getting your electricity from your roof, charging the battery, and using it when you need it in the evening when you're at home. And similarly, if you've got an electric car, then pretty soon you're going to be able to have electric cars that work 2 ways. You charge the car when the sun's shining, but you run the house from the electric battery when the sun isn't shining. So we're going to have a local economy with loads of solar generation, loads of battery storage. And how much could that be? Well, I've diverted myself from, I'm confusing myself here. At the moment, we've got very small amounts of electric cars and small amounts of solar. Is it going to be possible to max this out? Well, in Norway, they're already at the point where 95% of all new car sales are electric, and not just hybrids, they're nearly all battery electric cars. So they're up to saturation in new car sales, which is amazing. And they're already at that point. There's no reason why we won't follow. Why would we follow? Why wouldn't we stick with internal combustion engine cars? Because pretty soon they're going to be more expensive. not because the cost of ICE cars is going up, but because the cost of battery electric cars is coming down. You can get fabulous ones from Tesla. You can get fabulous ones from BYD, Build Your Dream, the Chinese company, but they're coming out with cheaper ones. The BYD Seagull is going to fight tariff barriers in Europe and the United States, but it's a lovely little electric car, and it's an 11,500 bucks or euros. It's cheaper than fossil fuel vehicles, and we're going to be driving them soon. The batteries are going to have longer range, they're going to last longer, and battery costs are coming down. They were meant to come down 50% during 2024, and I'm sure that they did. So that brings us to this quite interesting picture of potentially being able to deploy solar on lots of roofs. We're planning to just start off with a few roofs. Nobody's going to complain. It's going to be fairly easy to raise 500,000 or 1 million and put solar on 50 or 100 roofs. We'll do that through a community share issue with hopefully some grant funding. We'll put solar on lots of people's roofs. We'll experiment. We'll see if it works. And then we'll start to scale up in the direction of 50 gigawatts. That's like, what would that look? There's about 20 million households in the UK are currently connected to the gas grid. So we use electricity during the summer, and energy bills used to be about £1,500 a year, if I remember. Roughly 1,350 is a number that's in my head, and about 800 of that would be your electricity, and 550 of that would be your gas for your winter heating. Gas has got a very high energy density, so gas pipes can carry a lot of power to heat your home. There's about 20 million homes connected to the gas grid, and there's no really great reason why we should disconnect them all, except that there's methane emissions. But if you switch to hydrogen made by wind energy and biogas made by Ecotricity, have got a great plan for this. I'll link to that as well below. But we can grow wonderful, beautiful, biodiverse grass on our fields. As somebody will object to this, but these dialogues will happen all over the place. We will gradually see over the next years what's going to work best. But if we grow beautiful, biodiverse grass on our fields, roll it up into bales and let it mulch to silage, convert it in biogas digesters to biogas, and you've got growing grass in the summer, heating our homes in the winter. Is there enough to heat all our homes? Probably not. But it's a part of a solution, as will our solar energy be a part of the solution, as will wind energy in the North Sea. And there's every reason to believe that we can get to carbon neutral by 2030 because the government's already thought it through. The advantage of communities owning a big chunk of our generation is that we then have the chance to say, we want our energy to be cheap, not expensive. We don't want to be paying 30 pence a unit for gas or electricity. We want to be paying less. How much less could it be? Well, in our plans, we were looking at being able to buy solar systems, 4 or 5 kilowatt systems. We'd like it to be larger. There's a restriction on how much solar you can put on a roof. That's another thing that we would like the government's committee to act on. So that will be part of our recommendations. We want it to be not highly restricted how much solar you may put on a roof. At the moment, if you want more than 3.68 kilowatts, you have to get planning permission. We don't mind that, but we would like that to be really routine and really easy to get, that we have the right to max out our streets, and that local energy supply companies put 3-phase electricity up and down all our streets so that we've got enough power being generated on our roofs to power all our cars. our electric cars and our other electric transport. Some people want the freedom to have their cars. Some people want public transport. Both will be necessary in a good solution, and we're for all of that and for everybody having a dialogue about what's going to be best. So there you go. We had figured out 4 or 5 kilowatts for £6,000 or £7,000 would include some storage. And then just a couple of days ago, I saw a comment, and please put comments below if you're watching this. I saw a comment from a guy in Australia saying, "Hey, look, I've got 13 kilowatts of solar on my roof, and it only cost me 4,200 Australian dollars, which is just more than 3,000 quid. So we're talking about putting 6 kilowatts on a roof for £6,000 or £7,000, and in Australia you can get twice as much for half the price. In our model, we would still be able to give people 30% saving on their energy bill. Imagine you could get twice as much solar for half the price. We would clearly be able to give better than a 30% saving on an energy bill. So this is what's possible. And will people sign up for that? We hope so. We think that we hope we'll be able to hold meetings in communities, working through community centers. People get the chance to hear about this. Doesn't take long. This is only just over half an hour. And I'm going to stop in a minute and we'll submit this to the government. We'll do a pilot during this year. We'll start to scale up. Other cities will do the same. Community Energy England will have a discussion and include this as one of the solutions it works with. And off we go. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write a lovely report that we can send to the government before their deadline. But right now, I'm going to ask ChatGPT to sort of summarize this whole thing and see what it thinks it can recommend to the government. So your turn to talk, Chat. Takes it a moment to think. Chat, are you there? Can you respond? Kind of quiet, isn't it? If there's no response, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause this and save it and feed the transcript to ChatGPT and get it to make another little video with its response. But I will put the response as a document in the transcript below, and I will put Zoom's response as well. And there'll be a link to what we sent in to the government. So what are we asking for? We're asking for help to work with energy companies so that we're able to bill people. We don't want to start billing people for the energy from their own roofs. Your energy company is perfectly capable of doing it. It's like this. We've got these consumer devices now. We used to have telephones linked to a network, and we used to have broadcasting systems that were central and broadcast to us. And now we've got two-way communication all over the place, but it uses the existing network. We've got new consumer electronics, but it's connected to the existing network. In energy, the consumer electronics is going to be electric cars and it's solar roofs and goodness knows what else, loads of smart devices. But we want to use the existing network to carry the energy around, to take it from where there's an excess to where there's a need. We've got this fantastic grid, let's use it. But as much as possible, let's generate and use energy locally. We want the government to understand that's a possibility, that 50 gigawatts of energy can be generated locally. Much of it stored locally in electric vehicles, but it can be shunted around the country to where it's needed. And we you certainly don't want to be charging grid charges. If we burn biomass at Drax and you're using it in your house, you're using the national grid and you're using the distribution network. But you're sitting inside a little, and some of that's at 300,000 volts, at some at 100,000 volts. When it gets to your local supply, it's three-phase, 400 volts, and 240 volts between any of those three phases. From your local substation, we'd like to say as well, the energy that's generated in the local substation area and used within the local substation area, why should we be paying any transmission charges at all? You're actually paying a standing charge every day on your energy bill, and that standing charge is to cover the cost of the infrastructure. Well, let's have it at least cover the cost of your local infrastructure, and so that we have free trading of the energy that we produce locally. And we work with our energy companies and other smart people to make sure that we generate as much of it locally, and use as much of it locally as possible, so that we only buy energy in when we need to, and we buy it in as cheap as possible. And we only ship energy out when there's a need for it, or we've got a surplus, and we sell it for as much as possible. Why not? Let's have our local communities make the most of possible of this opportunity, but let's start by generating our own energy and selling it to ourselves as cheap as possible, starting off with money that we raise for ourselves in communities, and eventually ending up funding infrastructure with big capital. What kind of big capital? Our own pension funds, of course. There's lots of money tied up at the moment in BlackRock and the Vanguard funding capitalism, and they use pension funds as their sources of capital to create control of the world economy. Well, let's bring it back in. Let's bring our money back in and have our local communities funding our local energy, and then housing, and then whatever else we need in our local economy. Let's have these debates. So that's the idea. We're starting off with the opportunity for communities to own and run their own energy. We want the government to act so that the regulations, Ofgem and so on, support that as much as possible, so that energy companies are encouraged to support us, and so on. And I wanted ChatGPT to jump in at this point and say, absolutely. Are you there? I can see this little bubble on my screen hearing my voice and popping up and down, but it doesn't seem to be absorbing it and doing anything. So I'm going to stop this now and put ChatGPT's report underneath for you to read. And maybe another iteration of this video will include that. We'll see. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining in. And others in the series will start to repeat. We'll do one on carbon savings in Bristol. We'll do one on how not the government can support us, but how you can be part of this program, and so on. The series will grow. It'll be kind of like a blog. Sometimes do these quite regularly, and then we'll start doing it with other local groups, so that we're thinking through together how we get local energy supply in wherever that might be, different parts of the country, so that we're all working together to have 40 gigawatts of solar energy on our roofs by 2030, generating the nation's energy supply cleanly and cutting our energy bills initially by 30%, we hope, but obviously based on the Australian example, more. And once the capital cost has been paid off, then the cost of energy should be just pennies a unit. That's the opportunity. That's the promise that we can deliver on by figuring it out for ourselves. Okay, I'm going to click the end here, end of video. Please watch any of the others as you feel free. Join in this project. We have a website, www.resnet.org.au. You can see what we're trying to do with the Resilience Network to support our local communities becoming more resilient. You can also sign up there and register your interest. When you register your interest, keep battering us anyway, but we hope we'll get to the point quickly where we're doing pilot projects in communities in Bristol and working with other communities to do the same thing. Okie doke. Thank you very much. Please feel free to leave comments. We look forward to reading them and acting on them. And if you want to say you hate this and it doesn't make any sense and it will never work, that's just fine too. Everybody should have their say. We want people to have a chance to have their say and learn what's possible. End meeting for all. Well, that's me, but it's going to cut you off. Okay. Thank you very much.